Bag anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Special Bounty Hunters. The history of the Mandalorian people condensed down to like 30 minutes.
Oh, it's gonna be longer than that. It's
condensed down to 30 minutes. What I said.
We are live.
Is it possible to condense 10,000 years into half an hour?
Well, I mean, it is if you're using a lot of the canon rules.
Yeah, if we're following the canon stuff, we can condense at least 9,000 of those years into.
All right. So, what could be better? Having an entire species of people based on Greek Sparta, looking like Boba Fett, and being awesome. So, the Mandalorian people. I guess we can just start off with, you know what? I guess we can say, hey, if you're watching this the first time, every Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern, the Bounty Hunters, unless usually it's Kachung, he cancels the shows, 8:30 Eastern, right here on MrGarrell channel, the Bounty Hunters. Most of the time we do spotlighted characters. Sometimes we review shows, but cannot miss it. Now, let's get into this small movie I was told. So
award-winning.
Here goes the canon history of Mandalore squished down. You'll see it later probably in the short reels and stuff. But I put them together and I had to redo the entire video game because I didn't want it to be that little narrow thing. So you're welcome. Here we go.
The Mandalorians were a clan-based society with individuals from various species bound by a shared creed, language, and code. The Mandalorian way of life is one of honor, war, and conquest. They were led by a single ruler known as Mand'alor. According to ancient tradition, Mandalor the Great was the first individual to possess the title of Mandalor. It is said he defeated and tamed a mythosaur in the mines of Mandalore, leading to the mythosaur's skull becoming the traditional symbol of the Mandalorian. Despite the hostile relationship, a Mandalorian named Tar Vizsla was allowed to join the Jedi Order, and he created a lightsaber known as the Darksaber. Tar eventually founded House Vizsla and claimed the position of Mandalore. During the fall of the Republic, a member of his house raided the Jedi Temple, stealing the Darksaber and used it to reunify the Mandalorian people. Centuries of war and conflict took a toll on the Mandalorians, leading to the final conflict with the Jedi. That fight will lead to a cataclysm that turned much of Mandalore's surface into a lifeless desert, rendering it uninhabitable outside hermetically sealed domed cities. Around the year 42 BBY, a civil war broke out between the pacifist New Mandalorians and the traditionalists made up of the warrior clans wanting a return to the old. Eventually, the New Mandalorians, aided by the Jedi, won the war, and Duchess Satine ruled Mandalore. The defeated warrior clans were exiled to the Mandalore moon's Concordia. Once on the moon, members of Death Watch were able to continue their plans to return to power. Eventually, with the help of Darth Maul, they were able to seize control of the planet and assassinate Duchess Satine. This led to another civil war among Death Watch. That conflict led to the occupation of Mandalore by the Galactic Empire. Eventually, the Empire installed Garth Saxton as Viceroy of Mandalore. After years of harsh rule, a Mandalorian resistance led in part by bo-katan, sister of Duchess Satine, rose up to fight and oppose Imperial rule. Following the death of Saxon, bo-katan would receive the Darksaber from Sabine Wren and assumed the position of Mandalore. In response to the resistance, the Empire started the Great Purge of Mandalore, killing millions of Mandalorians during the Night of 1,000 Tears.
Still love that set piece. It's so gorgeous.
It's terrible, but yeah.
Terrible, but you know, it looks beautiful.
You sure you're Canadian? That was about the most American thing you ever said. I love the smell of...
You know, a little bit of the fun of me.
So yeah, that's kind of the canon sped up version of what we have so far.
More or less, unlike Legends, there isn't much prior to the Clone Wars that's known in canon so far. Just the two, and then everything obviously we know now is from the Mandalorian and Rebels. So
yeah,
I showed that to my son when I was working on it, and he was impressed by nothing other than when I changed the Mandalore skull. And
I was just going to mention that.
Mandalore symbol. He thought that was probably the best thing that I've ever done in the history of me editing videos. And I was like, wow, that's
A wipe
That's
transition.
a button I pushed. I
That's
just
the
had to
old
line them
Star
up.
Wars wipe transition right there.
Yeah, I just had to line them up. I mean, there's a little bit of work to it, but that's not okay. I'm glad you like it, son. But yeah, so it's still pretty cool. The story is pretty cool, but no spoilers, but kind of spoilers, but not spoilers. There's a certain TV show going on right now. It's in season 3.
Mhm.
In that TV show, one of the things they keep going back on is the constant warfare and the constant civil wars. Just in that 2-minute clip, I think I just said Civil War 3 or 4 times because that's what they just keep doing. They just keep battling each other,
infighting amongst each other, the clans all the time.
Yeah. So
what's
a few things I will touch on is I don't know if you really know what happened with the Jedi in Mandalorian. Have they really, in canon now, have they really said what happened to get that planet to being as messed up as it was? I know it's constant warfare, but they're like, after the battle, they basically beat them down to submission where they don't show back up again on the world stage, or I guess universe stage, for a long time. And have they talked about that canon, what actually happened between the two of them?
I don't think so. That's the part that baffles me and the more we do this show, the more I kind of think that Jedi are hypocrites.
What are you talking about?
That's a hot take right there.
Yeah. I mean, like, they beat that planet into submission. What did they do? Bomb the crap out of it? Did they use the Force to wipe all the atmosphere off for a few days and then bring the air back and just turn it
fumigated the planet?
I think the problem, if you want, like,
because the legends and canon, all they allude to is a Mandalorian Jedi war, which, because we're gonna talk about the legends later on with the slides, but the Mandalor in canon, there's there's Tar Vizsla and there's Mandalor the Great. Mandalor the Great seemingly is a combination of 3 legends Mandalorians or Mandalors. For the first, Abominable and Ultimate. Ultimate was the one that fought in the Mandalorian Wars, which fought against the Jedi with Revan. So essentially, they combine that idea into this new canon version, but all they mention is Mandalorian Jedi War. They don't specify any details about it, so all we can presume is the Mandalorians lost in the end.
Yeah, and you hear stuff, right? Like the Mandalorians are bad. Like to what Kachung was saying, the Mandalorians are bad. They're a warlike people. But like I was talking to the Canadian here beforehand, they're interesting though, right? Because it would be very hard for me to believe that there's an entire species of people, entire galaxy, little quadrant of space that doesn't care where you come from. They don't care if you have a second head and you're the only one of your species. They welcome you into the brotherhood, bro. And no one ever fights, no one ever says anything. Because if that's legitimately how they are, and we know they were bad, however, they weren't Sith bad, because when the Sith shows up in like Knights of the Old Republic, the game I'm playing right now, they were so bad that the Mandalorians are like, holy but Jesus, are y'all going to do something about these Sith?
Yeah, well,
so there's somewhere between the Republic. There's somewhere between the Republic and somewhere between the Sith, and they were operating in their own space for out. And I don't remember any stories of the people just being terrorized constantly and murdered. And yet the justification for the Jedi is we tried to wipe them off the face of everything because they were mean and they fought a lot.
They were like Viking raiders, and
it's not good. Like, it's not a good look looking back on it now.
It seems like the Jedi were like threatened by them. And was this guy a Force-wielding Mandalorian to be wielding the Darksaber to create the Darksaber?
Well, that's the second guy. They didn't take place in the war against the Jedi.
So yeah, basically, so when it says right here, I'm reading it, make sure I get the date right. 9,991 BBY on the planet of Mandalore. There's all kinds of other things that say how they got to Mandalore. We'll get into all that later, but this is just what canon is now. They just pop into existence, apparently, as of right now. We don't really have that.
Yeah.
And it basically says they just started wars of expansion, and they wanted to take over the thing. They ran into some mystical people that had laser swords, and then they were like, crap, they're going to be tougher than we thought, and they based a lot of their weapons, obviously, and gadgets and gizmos and armor around fighting the Jedi. So that was right there. They didn't run in the Republic and said, "Holy crap, we got to deal with the Republic." They ran into the Jedi and said they got to deal. So again, I don't want to keep making the Jedi seem like the bad guys, but there is, and obviously, you know, when Daddy Lucas started letting everyone write anywhere and he wasn't really taking control of the situation, I think this is why you have this really weird time in the Jedi where they seem like they're just as bad as everyone else because they're written at a time in the 70s and 80s where the ends justify the means. You know, you had Reagan who was like ready to nuke the planet just to keep the Russians from nuking the planet, which is a really weird way to look at it. So I think honestly, in the real world, that's the problem. In the inside world, hey, listen, one of our guys got a little haywire. We call it, he went dark. And he wiped out like an entire solar system. But you know what? We went and grabbed him. We brought him back into the light. He's good now. We promise he ain't going to go back to the dark side again. Everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. So, yeah.
We gave him extra meals.
I will say this. Do you remember how we were saying it seems hard that the people turned on the Jedi that fast? You know, the writing's kind of sloppy. They forgot about him that fast. They turned on him that fast. To Kachung's point, the more we read, the more I think the people might have been ready to forget them. Like they're more than might have been, you know what? Like this is enough already. We don't need another one of them going dark and wiping out half the planets again.
God. But yeah.
So yeah, that's it. 991. We have right now it's one Mandalore. They're kind of doing that. I do like that they're using on all things Star Wars right now. They're going back and grabbing what's good about Legends. And they're kind of picking because there is a lot of good, but there is a lot of gibberish in Legends too. So
leading with that, as we were talking, me and Craig were talking about before, was that right now for Star Wars canon, there isn't much established for Old Republic because they haven't delved into that aspect yet. But they created this new thing called the High Republic, which takes place just like 150 or 200 years before Phantom Menace.
Right.
They have not established any Mandalorian stuff there. They haven't established a Mandalor or Mandalorian presence, which I wonder if they do, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to have them warring with the Jedi? Are they have them doing their own thing? Is it going to be similar to how canon was, where there was something going, like they were doing their own thing, or Legends was where they're doing their own thing? But it's bound to happen. It's bound to be brought up sooner or later.
Yeah, there's bound to be a writer that can take charge and get the freedom to do that, whether it's Sewell or Kavan Scott or whoever.
Yeah, so it seems like in the canon part, you have the beginning that's a little bit fuzzy. It's a little bit cloudy right now. We haven't been revealed. We have this one badass Mandalorian fella, just guy, who kills dinosaurs and unites people and goes on conquering planets. So that's why everyone is now called Mandalore and Mandalorians and Mandalore planet and everything. And there's skirmishes with the Jedi. I guess we go into later all the different ones because I didn't really touch on that because I just couldn't fit it all.
There is a lot of Mandalores.
Yes.
And
so there's a lot
Legends makes it a little ridiculous.
But I'm trying to see like Mandalorian Neo Crusaders and the Crusaders, Rally Masters, and all this stuff.
There's a lot. Again, all those Legends things we'll cover there. But I guess,
and then we go from that to the next point that's important. I guess you can just assume they're fighting, right? They're whipping ass and taking beatings. Old Wolf is here.
Hey.
Oh. They wear buckets on their heads. A lot of people wear buckets on their heads, but they have the coolest buckets on their heads. So let's not forget that part.
They have the shiniest buckets with the best paint jobs.
All right. So until they flesh it out, just say the Mandalorians are fighting, taking planets, maybe getting planets taken from them. They're doing this culture, which the more I hear about it, I'm not sure why they were the bad guys, honestly. Like we got to start hearing some pretty dastardly things they were doing. Because right now they seem welcoming of others. You're in the fold now, brother. No matter what, we gotta do that. And then there's this next guy right there. I have his. It's the guy that has something to do with that.
The Dark Saber.
The Dark Saber. There's a guy named Tar Vizsla. Vizsla. He is one with the Force, and they take him. And they allow him to become a Jedi, which that's surprising. If they're worthy
very Jedi-like to just let whoever else in. They don't. You know what? We can redeem them,
especially the enemy.
Yeah, the enemy specifically.
Remember, these are the same people that they're going to be wiping out here soon. So, like, why would you let them? It's neither here nor there. They also let Revan come back after he conquered half the known everything, but it's fine. So he eventually found he took his prowess back to Mandalore, started his own house, and I guess basically they don't really go too much into it, but he basically became the head of Mandalore.
He founded Clan Vizsla, became the head of Mandalore, the strongest house, and then
once he died, it seems like the Jedi kept his lightsaber. I don't know how they got it, but they kept it because it's in their possession. When his house decides, and it's a little while after his death, a few generations later, it seems like they went and they stole it. They raided the Jedi Temple, which, by the way, the Jedi guards need to be wiped out about every 2 generations. Them sons don't let anybody in there. There's been so many breaches of the Jedi Temple. I don't know what those yahoos are doing.
I think they're using Padawans.
The youngling guards.
But they take it and they use it to become a symbol of the Mandalorian people. They reunite under it, and it becomes a very important thing. And then I don't know, man. Like
nothing until the Clone Wars. That's it.
Yes, and
there's
then
no details in between then and then.
That's it. Time. They got beat. They stayed in their area of space, and we don't know what happens. And then, boom, we're in the Clone Wars now. There's a pacifist group, and there's a group that says we want to go back to the warrior ways. I don't think this will come as a shock, but somebody starts meddling. We'll go ahead and get the surprise here. The Jedi, they start meddling in the business. You know what? The Jedi
part, and they're like, yes,
the Jedi kind of remind me of the Jedi kind of remind me of America a little bit. Like, we're always meddling in stuff we're not supposed to be meddling in. We're pretending like we're the good guys, and yet if you get a little too sideways, we'll just overwhelm you with stuff and then go, okay, now clean it back up again. And then why does everyone hate us? Like, it seems kind of I'm just saying. But anyway, so long story that goes out. We also get one of the coolest stories ever, which is who can say no to the man that is Kenobi. Clearly, he almost left his whole thing for this queen
Princess
of Mandalore.
And later queen of Mandalore.
The one part I would say is important probably going forward is bo-katan is her sister.
Yes, which is interesting.
She was a part of Death Watch, and she was the main opponent of her sister. That would be important going forward.
Helped depose her sister.
Yes.
For Vizsla and like the warrior way back. Yes. And obviously, okay, if anyone have not watched the Clone Wars, all the Mandalorian stories, such as the Mandalore plot, the Duchess of Mandalore, all those arcs are probably some of the best in the whole series. And specifically, the one when Kenobi goes back to rescue Satine from Maul, as we'll get into, has probably some of the best like visuals in that whole series.
Great art, great everything. It's done really well. It's a great story. It's a storyline you know because it's sisters. But I will say this, depending on how close they're going to stick with it, because I know who bo-katan is, because Clone Wars is my favorite thing. I don't trust a word she says on this show.
Oh, great, amazing, dark. Like, talk about, if you want to talk about a character that's so like powerful and like conniving, but also like, you know, can come off as very charming. Like, that's a perfect character right there.
She wants to be the head of Mandalore worse than anything in the world, and it feels like she'll do anything to get it. And because we know what her past is, like, I'm not surprised she doesn't screw over everyone to do it, because in the end she thinks she does it. She's doing it for good reason in her own mind, that she knows what Mandalore needs. They need to stop fighting. They need to rely under one, and she should be the one. Obviously, that's what she believes now. And so, you know, just heads up, watch your back, everyone who's involved in this TV show going forward. They end up assassinating her sister, obviously, and out of nowhere, they didn't use him enough, and then suddenly they can't stop using him. Darth Maul makes an appearance.
No, Maul is the one that kills Satine.
Yes.
Don't forget. Yeah, Maul is the one that kills Satine after he basically helps instill a puppet government by helping Pre Vizsla ascend the throne, become Mandalore, and then promptly challenge him for the throne, to which he's not going to say no. It leads to a really awesome fight.
I love
and
that.
then having
Yeah.
the new Mandalor, Darth Maul.
It's weird because they kind of place Maul up until now as a assassin who's one-minded hate, and on this one, he had such a long plan. He got
Crazy long.
all the like gangsters and all the shady business all the way down to the Hutts, like motivated to do one thing, and it was this, and it paid off.
Tremendously.
But anyway, so that started the Civil War. When it was all said and done, I don't know like how to say it. I guess you got to keep fast forwarding. They're fighting and fighting. What's happening? I don't know. Who knows what's happening? I don't know. There's another little dead spot between the Clone Wars and then
every time it
Rebels.
happens, the Civil War happens between the different groups. There's a winner. There's peace for a tiny bit, and then something happens and they fracture again. As example, here after after Maul is deposed and bo-katan takes the throne, there's peace for a little bit, and then when the Empire takes control, they come in and go, "Listen, we kicking you out," and because she didn't want to pay tribute. So Gar Saxon is Imperial funded, and he takes his group. Bo-Katan exiles, takes her clans, and then now we have another Civil War again.
Another Civil War after that. What I would say is cool about that, though, is I do enjoy the Imperial troopers that became
the Super Commando ones. Yeah.
Super Commandos are pretty freaking awesome. Like they're pretty cool looking. And then you have another spot. There's a little bit of a dark spot. We don't really know what's happening. And then here come the Rebels, the TV show Rebels. They happened upon the Darksaber because Darth Maul had it and he left it in the Witch Planet, and they come up on it. And fast forward through the whole TV show, at the end, she was like, "Hey, this belongs to you, Bo-Katan." And at the end, you see them all taking a knee and saying, "You are queen." But apparently, there was some who did not take a knee, as we find out later. And and then the Empire says, "Yeah, that ain't gonna work for us."
We looked at the Jedi records. We saw what they did to you. We know what to do with you.
The Empire says, "You know what? Between you and the Jedi fighting constantly, you're not bending the knee to us, and you guys won't stop fighting. It ain't gonna work for us, brother." And they decide just to wipe them off the face of everything.
The planet.
They glass the planet,
destroy it,
which is crazy. And according to Rebels, the part we still haven't been explained is what's her name? The Mandalorian in Rebels.
Sabine,
yeah. Sabine Wren designed a weapon that destroyed Mandalore, is what she says in the show. I don't think they ever expanded on that.
She helped design a bomber weapon.
Is that what it is?
If that's what that was, I completely disregarded that. I forgot about that.
I don't think they've expanded on what it is. We just know that in the TV show, the reason why she has all of her angst is because it comes out at the end that she was one of the lead designers in what happened to Mandalore, and that's it.
Because she's a tech wizard.
Yeah, and
she's an arsonist.
And if you're watching now, the Mandalorians are very tiny. Millions were killed. Most were killed. They spread all over the universe, galaxy, mainly becoming soldiers for hire and bounty hunters. And that takes us up to the Mandalorian now, where you have a little bit here, a little bit there, and no spoilers, Mandalorian TV show, but we're continuing the story from there. So I think that's it as far as canon. I can't think of anything else that's a quick touch spot. Can you?
No.
No.
That episode with Sabine with the Darksaber is pretty cool. I think that's one of my favorite episodes of Rebels. But mainly because I love it in the Clone Wars too. Like that whole Death Watch with Pre Vizsla and all that in the Clone Wars is my favorite part of the Clone Wars. So
I mean, the Darksaber is pretty important, so we could talk about it just for a second. The part that makes me wonder is in the animated, and I get it, you can't do everything animated. That thing is like a wet noodle. That thing, when it goes, it's like, it bends and it does all kinds of crazy stuff. And I really haven't seen that used in live action that way. Do you think they're going to do that? Or do you think they're going to reel that back and just kind of make it
They'll probably reel it back a bit, but I also figure we haven't obviously, episode 2, we can talk about stuff with that. We saw Bo-Katan use it, who's someone who's experienced like using the Darksaber.
Yeah.
While like Din Djarin, he's used it, he's learning how to use it better, but like he's not like experienced, or he doesn't have like the thing is, all the people we've seen use the Darksaber really well have had some kind of Force attunity, right? Like Sabine and such. So
Yeah, I assume that has something to do with, maybe the Force, or maybe just it knows, it's like they say, never be scared of a dog. It can sense that you're afraid, and maybe there's something going on with that, and it knows that he's conflicted. He doesn't really know if he should be even messing with it, so it's not really listening to him.
He's not
like
tuned
the
into
Elder
it
Wand.
like a tuning fork is not in the same frequency.
Yeah.
mm,
And that is the rule. That is the at least that's the tradition. You can only wield it if you beat somebody in combat for it.
yeah,
Moff Gideon had it. We're not really sure how he got it. He has it somehow. And the funny thing is, they're not really talking about how he had it, but he knew you had to win it in a fight. So to me, it seems like that means he got it in a fight.
well,
he fought a youngling at Coruscant.
Because the last person we knew had it before him was Bo-Katan. She got some explaining to do. How did you get beat by Moff Gideon?
There could always be the fact that he could have won in the fight. That fight could have been pretty dodgy, though. They could have had like 100 stormtroopers aiming at her and like cable tying her down. He walked up.
He gave the order to bomb the planet.
Oh, I want it.
Yeah. He gave the order to bomb the planet. She dropped it, and then he's like, "There you go. Like that's mine now." Like I mean, it could have been.
I was fighting you, therefore this is mine.
But even though we have a lot of holes, there's a lot of room for screw up, but there's a lot of room for really cool stories that can be told. Obviously,
I figure they're leaving that open on purpose.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and to me, this part they've done a really good job with the Mandalorians, because Jedi are tricky and Jedi are sticky, and it gets really concerning to me when they start writing prequels and let's just force a Jedi into this story because we need it here, because we're supposed to not know any Jedis by a certain point, and all these Jedis keep popping up. Why aren't they ever been mentioned? Mandalorians, you can do whatever you want to, because there's certain parts where they pretty much get wiped out and then they build back up again. So you can say, well, what happened to him was he died in the 14 civil wars we had. So like it's way easier to tell these stories.
What do you expect? He took part in 3.
Yeah.
He was gonna die in one of them.
Which dark times, which dark ages was it?
Yeah. The dark.
Which night of tears did he die in? The first, second, or the last one? We don't know.
100 tears. The ones.
As soon as it came out of my mouth, this is also what I'm saying is not good. As soon as it left my mouth, I was thinking that's probably some words I shouldn't have said at the same time. Tricky and sticky. But hey, it's a good time for all to be had. All right, so you ready to jump into the S Storm here?
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. It's
all right.
Stuff. So these slides, I will fair warning. There is a lot of text. I won't try and read it all the text. I will summarize what I wrote. So
if you're watching later on, you can always pause to read, as they say.
So this is a timeline of all the different Mandalors from canon and legends. I will denote it on each. This is what I mean when I say there is a lot of goddamn Mandalors in legends. Very briefly, I will mention a couple important ones. So Mandalor the First, he was a Tong. The Tong were a species that were originated on Coruscant that got evicted by the humans, and they went off to the planet that became Mandalore, and they colonized it. And they were the first of the Mandalorians. They look like the Predator species if it was just like they based the look off the helmets. We have pictures later to show. But
Chum, were you writing stories for comic book people back in the day? Because that sounds awfully suspicious that your two favorite things look that similar.
So yeah, the Mandalor the First, he was the first one, and they basically in Legends, the equivalent of the Darksaber was a thing called the ceremonial mask of Mandalore, and it was made from the bones of a mythosaur. That was what was passed down for generations, opposed to like the Darksaber, until that was introduced. The Indomitable, he was the Mandalore during the Great Sith War, where he sided with the Sith against the Jedi, ultimately dying because, the Jedi outsmarted him. And then Mandalore the Ultimate, he's probably the first really important one. He actually he picked up the mask from Domino's corpse, and led his people with that, eventually creating the Neo Crusaders, and they're the ones you see in Knights of the Old Republic. There was the golden age for them, and that's what started the Mandalorian Wars, where they actually almost defeated the Republic. They actually pushed them very close to Coruscant, but the only reason they were stopped was because Revan and his Revanchists Jedi, went against the orders of the Jedi and fought against the Mandalorians, and Revan ultimately killed Ultimate on Malachor 5 and took his mask so no one else would lead up the tally. Mandalor the Preserver. He was a bounty hunter, Canderous Ordo from Knights of the Republic games. He worked alongside Revan to eventually, and Revan gave him the mask and said, "You were fit to be Mandalore. Bring your people back." So he went on to try and bring the clans back together. The other ones listed there, they're the ones from the Old Republic games and like some other stuff. They're kind of like, a lot of them were puppets to the Imperial Sith Empire at the time, with the exception of Mandalore the Avenger. Oh, sorry, one thing of note. Mandalore the Preserver, Canderous Ordo, was the first human Mandalore. Before that, they were all Tong. And Shae Vizsla was the first female Mandalore. She was also a bounty hunter that helped in the siege of Coruscant with Darth Malgus. Ultimately, though, when her clans were decimated, she led Clan Vizsla and eventually took on the title of Mandalore when there was no one else to do so. And then she took her fight against the Sith Eternal Empire, and again, eventually she actually fought against a reborn Darth Revan as well. Yeah, that would be a little brief summary of the Old Republic ones. As you can tell, a little more than 2 guys in canon.
Right.
Yeah, all this has been so far taken down one.
Right down compared to canon.
I just got through playing Knights of the Old Republic, the video game, and that takes up like 3 and 4. Obviously, you can find out more about that if you play that game, or you can watch it on my channel. But it's pretty cool.
And there's the Old Republic. So okay, I've been numbering them as which Mandalore they were in order. So canon has a separate ordering from Legends. Mandalore the Great was the first one, as we talked about. After that, we don't know the order, because Tar Vizsla, we don't know when he was, because it was so many way later. But that's all we have for canon, as we've talked about. These are fun ones. So early Republic era and Legends, the 3 on the left, Hammerborn, Binder, and Destroyer, all have 2 sentences to describe them in a reference book. That's it. There's not much to them. They were in tournament period, kind of through some of the more boring phases in their time. But there was a really big character named Jaster Muriel, who we've talked about when we discussed Django before. He was a journeyman protector on Conquer Dawn, basically the sheriff. And then he later took on the title of Mandalore when he was exiled from Conquer Dawn's moon. He basically created the Mandalorian Super Commandos, and he decided that the Mandalorians needed a way to refocus. So he created the Super Commando Codex, which was like a new tenet, essentially the constitution for the Mandalorians. By doing so, he pissed off a lot of other ones, and specifically one guy named Tor Vizsla, who was the leader of Clan Vizsla at the time. He did not like that, so he decided to go do his own thing. So while Jaster Muriel led the true Mandalorians, Tor Vizsla led Death Watch and called himself Secret Mandalore. And then Clan Kryze started up the new Mandalorians, the pacifist group, which we know and from the Clone Wars. So that
you mean to tell me they split and basically had like a civil war, kind of, sort of? Like that's kind of odd.
I know, weird, right? And they fractured into 3 groups. So now it's even more confusing that there's 3 Mandalores.
But it gives you a kind of a history of where we're going with the TV show, kind of thing. I think a little bit
leads right into that. Which the next one?
Trying. There we go.
Yeah. Technically, there was 13. The 13th Mandalore. There was 3 of them at the same time. So Jango Fett actually was Mandalore of the true Mandalorians when Jaster Muriel was killed. He held the title essentially all the way up until the genocide on Galadran, when the Jedi went in there and massacred them all. Using Vizsla from Death Watch, he orchestrated it all. When Jango was left alone and he went off to his thing we talked about before, he retired the role and went to be a bounty hunter. So, while that happened, Satine took over from her father and opened trade relations with the Republic and just wanted a peaceful era devoid of conflict. And when that happened, another Mandalore took place. Pre-Vizsla came to lead Death Watch and become Secret Mandalore at that time. Ultimately, he got a hold of... He had the Darksaber, so he felt he had the greatest claim. And then he would go on to depose Satine, making him the final Mandalore of the 13. So he is the 14th Mandalore, who immediately lost his title because Darth Maul killed him in combat. And Darth Maul went on to lead his own super commandos with Gar Saxon and declare himself Secret Mandalore, carrying on from Death Watch, while bo-katan took her clans and went into exile and to oppose Maul's reign. Until Maul eventually, at the final days of the Clone Wars, lost, and bo-katan took over for there. Okay. This is really confusing. This is a really weird one. So in Legends, this is Legends. There was a guy named Mandalor the Resurrector. He was a clone of Jango named Spar. He defected. He was the first defector. He defected before the Battle of Geonosis even happened, because he was having memories of Jango and think he was himself. He became a bounty hunter. And then when Jango Fett died during Geonosis, he decided to reform the Super Commandos and join the side of the Separatists, the CIS, during the Clone Wars. And then Sidious is like, I have enough of this shit. This is too confusing trying to keep track of everyone. So Sidious is like, hey, you guys should go over here and do this. And then they went over there and he had them promptly all killed. Except for him and 2 others survived. They went off to Mandalore and retired. They said, I'm done with this. Ultimately, he died to Boba Fett's daughter, who thought it was Boba Fett and killed him when trying to kill her father because he was a clone as well.
We're gonna just speed right past that daughter situation and go on.
That's more stuff.
He has a granddaughter, right?
Yep, and even then, so that's 16. Now, 17 is the first real one after the Republic era. He was Fen Shaisa was one of the 2 survivors with Spar. He was his second hand. He went on to later fight Luke Skywalker and Leia in the Bones of the Mythosaur. He was the guy in that original Marvel comic with the Mandalorians fighting them. So he fought on the side of the Alliance later on against the Empire, trying to retake Mandalore space from Grand Admiral Milton. Eventually, after Return of the Jedi, he went on to lead the Mandalorians fully as Mandalore and help the New Republic wipe out remaining Imperial remnants. And then comes on to the big boy himself, Boba Fett. It was the 18th Mandalore in Legends.
This is Legends. Listen, if anybody just joining, this is Legends now.
It's Legends. He became the 18th Mandalore. He took on a bounty from a Kaminoan and to kill Fen Shaisa. He went to go kill him, and then some shenanigans happen, and Shaisa saves his life, basically, and he's going to die in the process. So Shaisa tells Boba Fett, you're the only one fit to rule our people and continue the legacy. Fett mercy kills him, and then takes on the role of Mandalore for him, and helps the Jedi in New Republic during the Yuuzhan Vong War, which is the big event in Legends post Return of the Jedi. And then you have two last little guys. Not gonna really talk about them. They're from the Legacy era, like 120 years later. Chernin Ordo, ancestor of Mandalore the Preserver. He basically led the Mandalorians alongside the Alliance, fighting against the Fel Empire from Darth Krayt. ultimately, he was waiting for reinforcements, and they didn't show up, so they all died. But it was actually orchestrated by the following guy, Yaga Ux. He basically orchestrated his death so he could become Mandalore and take them out of the war, because he didn't want the Mandalorians in that war. But by doing so, the Fel Empire won, and a new Sith Empire took control. And that guy, Yaga Ux, eventually died because a survivor of that massacre got revenge. And yeah, that's a long history right there. So 18 Mandalores and Legends, plus 2 extras. We don't know their placement, so 20 plus Mandalores.
There you go. All of them done. Congratulations. Way to go, Canadian, on that.
Thank you. Now, canon's a little easier because we just talked about it. Bo-Katan was the 16th when they overthrew Maul. Promptly after that happened, when she was when the Empire came in, she technically was the Mandalore in exile, while Gar Saxon took over as Viceroy of Mandalore, appointed by the Empire. After that civil war happened, when Sabine Wren passed on the Darksaber to her after Saxon was killed, she became Mandalore once again, leading to her losing the title at the Night of 1,000 Tears, where she lost, Mandalore to Moff Gideon. That ended her second reign as Mandalore. So, will we see a third? Maybe.
Maybe.
All right, there is your history of the Mandalore, rulers of the people.
And we'll go into a little bit of armor sets here.
I don't know what the professor's going to give you for that book report, but fantastic job. Hopefully we'll get an A.
D. So on the left there, so Taunt and Crusader. So the Taunt on the left, that's what the species look like. Very much like the Predator's helmet.
Yeah.
And then on the right is the Crusader armor standard. Now, the Crusader armor actually never had a organized, like, you have to dress like this. They're like, you can dress however you want. And a lot of them use bone and other pieces. But the reason why they look so similar is because all those Crusaders were Tong. So their helmets all look the same because they all had the same head structure, which is what led to that design in the visor. Followed up by the Neo Crusaders, who have some pretty cool armor. A lot more closer to modern Mandalorian armor, and more standardized because they use color coding to denote different ranks because they went to a humongous war against the Jedi. Blue being standard, like the most base level, crimson for rally masters, basically like a sergeant, and gold for field marshals. But this was actually the first time they started using Beskar in the armor, and they were calling it at the time Mandalorian Iron, before they got the official name for it. As well as they actually started introducing specialist armors such as the Shock Trooper, which is the gold one there, which looks a lot closer to modern Mandalorian armor.
Yeah,
those are pretty cool looking for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now your modern armor, very familiar. Basically the most common look you ever see. Basically was used by super commandos in the early Republic. There is earlier existences of it, but there's no standardized before that. Beskar was often the main use of it. There were Durasteel versions, but those were like more cheaper and like essentially like foundling ones before they gave them like the full set. And obviously each armor was different from clan to clan and male and female. As you see, Boba Fett has a pretty much standard looking set.
And just because Boba Fett has some serious chicken legs going on there, doesn't mean all Mandalorians have chicken legs.
And then compared to the female, there's Bo-Katan has a more the owl-looking helmet for her clan. And a lot of them had different weapons and accessories. So, such as a jetpack, rangefinder, knee rockets, the whistling birds, vibroblade gauntlets, which Django you've seen use, flamethrower and cable launcher. As well as a lot more, but I didn't feel like putting bullet points across the whole screen.
I do like how they kept the tradition of making sure the females had boob armor. That's standard.
That was very important. When you can't take your helmets off, and you gotta figure out who's who. It's Legacy era and Legends had a very interesting one because they during the reign of Darth Krait's Phil Empire, they kept the design of the modern armor because it's pretty much like near perfect. But what they did instead was the visors of the helmets, they kind of went wonky with the shapes because the heads-up displays were better, so they didn't have to worry about the specifics. So this one here, the guy has a more like V-shaped visor, while other ones have had X designs and Ys. And their armor was almost like scaled lobster armor, where it covered every joint of your body, so that you wouldn't have like the open spots where you'd see the flight suit, so that if you got hit by there, you would still be defended by this armor.
And, not to break the wall here, but it was just because an artist thought that looked cool and wanted to redesign it.
That's really cool. That's the coolest part, Kachun, now back up for a second. I want to ask Kachun an important question.
Look out.
What would you make? What would be your goal of those armors?
Oh, which one would I make out of all those?
Ignoring the yeah, you can count the modern too. Even then,
I don't know. I like the Neo armor.
I think the Neo armor looks cool too.
They have some cool helmet shapes.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make the
modern's
one,
important,
cool.
but
that's pretty cool.
Probably make the modern one first, but the Neo one would be more armor because more armor is better.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about one blaster killing you in that armor. Like, these are key appearances. I included some of the important Mandalors and other Mandalorians there. Some of their comic appearances, and who don't have comic appearances, I included their shows or games or whatever else is important. So for Mandalore the Ultimate, his first cameo appearance is in Tales of the Jedi Sith War 6. That's where he puts the mask on, but we don't realize who it is first. Knights of the Old Republic 8 is his first full appearance, and his first cover appearance is on 15.
And we always give this to you guys, so if you want to go do more looking up,
reading and research,
you can go research it there.
Good places to start, or if you just want to appreciate some of the art, especially in the Dark Horse stuff here.
Yeah, Dark Horse is good, and these actually say Dark Horse. That's nice.
Yes, I pulled them directly off the Wikipedia these time because I wanted to appreciate the full experience with these.
All right.
Ignore the low quality for this one. Low quality image. Mandalor Preserver. He has no appearances in comics. He only appears in the Knights of the Republic video games, where he first appears in the original, and then the sequel he appears as the Mandalor himself. And in the Old Republic MMO, he's a hologram. He shows up as. And those are the two games there.
Once again, playing on MrGarrell Gaming, you can already see that I finished up Knights of the Republic, and I'm starting Knights of the Republic 2. It's a long story, but it'll be coming out in the next couple of days. It's a long, horrible story, but it's fine. This will be coming out soon. If you want to know more about that, I guess.
Yeah. Very simple. Just a Mariel. 2 comics he appears in. Issue 1 of Jango Fett Open Seasons is his first appearance and cover, and issue 2 is his death. We've talked about that before, and Jango's episode. Amazing series.
It's pretty cool.
There you go.
And there's the comics.
Funny that he was adopted, and then he adopted Boba.
You got an adoption line right there.
Yeah.
So Jango Fett, we've talked about him before, so if anyone's seen that episode or stuff, no stranger to these. Jango Fett #1 is actually his first appearance plus cover. Predates the Attack of the Clones adaptation. Issue 4 of the Attack of the Clones is his death. And the open season storyline we just mentioned is the origin of Jango Fett. Along with canon, he has his first canon appearance plus as a one-shot, which is the Age of the Republic Jango Fett. That has a lot of variant covers, so that's a whole spread of stuff you can look at.
Yeah, that's the one I have right there on the right.
Yeah, the A cover. Great story. Now, Pre-Vizsla, to maybe anyone's surprise, has not a single comic appearance. He has not appeared anywhere in any comic book. So his description here would just be the TV series Clone Wars. The Mandalore plot arc is his first appearance. Great storyline. A Friend in Need he shows up in, which is also the first appearance of bo-katan. We'll talk about later. And then his last arc is where his death is Shades of Treason.
He's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Bo-Katan, she appears in. So these are a little more going on for her because she has a lot more in TV series. Friend in Need is her first appearance. Again, she follows up in the same arc as Pre Vizsla, as well as the Siege of Mandalore arc at the end of the Clone Wars. Rebels, she's in the Heroes of Mandalore 2-episode arc. And then Mandalorian, she's in the second season for the 3rd episode and 8th episode. And currently she's in the first 3 episodes of season 3 of Mandalorian.
Wow, spoiler alert. I guess I know who's in the 3rd episode.
I mean, just turn it off. So
the end of the second one,
So yeah, and basically she has only one current comic appearance, which is a cover for the 50th anniversary variant. Now leading into that, I would say that's her appearance on the left. Mandalorian, they finished doing a comic series based on the first season. They already confirmed they're doing season 2, and that's art they showed off for the first issue. So when they do the episode that has her, that would presumably be the first appearance of Bo-Katan in comics.
Yeah,
which would be a good place to pick it up. Sabine Wren has a couple of things here. Art Attack was a Rebel short where she first appeared, followed up by the I included a couple different episodes here. So the Darksaber episodes were some of her very popular ones, and then the Heroes of Mandalore arc. Comic books, she first appears in.
She doesn't appear in any comic books. Move on.
You know what? We can move on then. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So they don't look for them. They don't exist. Canon.
Yeah, they don't exist.
For last paddle that doesn't exist. Number one, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
As the first.
I still don't have it either.
But they do exist. The issue 1's on the left. That's the the first full appearance. And on the right there is issue 6. It's her first cover appearance. She shows up in the second half of that series, but these are the 2 big issues for her and for most of the Rebels.
Yeah,
actually, all of the Rebels. Actually. Now on to the big boy himself, Boba Fett. Really condensing down his important stuff. So issue 42 of the 77 is his first appearance and cover. Boba Fett Bounty on Barkuda is his first solo story and self-title. He had a bunch of single issue stories with different titles, but they were all part of the same series. That same Jango Fett issue 1 is actually the first time you see him as a young Boba Fett when he was the young clone. And then for canon, we've talked about many times, is issue 1 of Darth Vader is his first canon appearance.
Get it if you haven't got it by now. Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
great.
Really. And then Age of Rebellion Boba Fett 1 is just a one shot of him in the in canon.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the 3 Legends issues there. And then the 2 canon issues are right there.
I have this one on the right for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that also has a lot of variant covers as well. All the Age of stories did.
Mm-hmm.
Din Djarin has just started in comics. He had actually his first real appearance was a cover appearance on the Sprouse 50th anniversary on Darth Vader. That actually had a second printing of that specifically because it was so popular.
Yeah.
And then obviously he has the new Mandalorian comic series, which is based just adapting the show. Issue 1 would be his first appearance, truly. So on the left is that anniversary variant. The silver one is the second printing, and on the right is the A cover to the Mandalorian series.
The second print looks better.
It does look better.
Matches his armor more.
Mm-hmm. It would be interesting if the second print was him with the original set before he did all of Beskar.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that would be all the Mandalorian stuff I had out.
Wow.
There's a lot more, but you can only put so much into an hour.
You can only put so much into an hour. We hope you guys did enjoy that. you can always go back and look, pause, read any of the books that we said to know more about it. But I think you're in a pretty good place. We just wanted to get people into a pretty good place of knowing what maybe some of the motivations are going forward in the TV show and future stuff.
Some of the key players and
yeah. And it's important to know the legends because we were trying to say maybe if we did just the canon, it'd be even faster, but they're clearly taking from the legends and
as obviously taking one character and combining 3 characters into one. Like
so they're taking a lot of stuff from legends to put it in here, so it's cool to kind of know where that comes from. But I think you're in a pretty good place if you didn't know that much about Mandalore with our little quick review, not so quick, but faster, but slower review of history of Mandalore. And I think that's it. You have anything else to add when it comes to the Mandalore part of this?
Nope.
No.
Dave, what do you got? What do you got, Dave?
Come on.
Something else. No. No.
No?
There is so much.
There really is. We could do multiple episodes of this.
He appears like the first time Boba Fett appears. I don't know. It's just crazy that all of this spawned from that second movie.
All this spawned by a background character that had almost no anything, and then boom.
I will ask, because Kachun is his favorite character, because he does become in Legends. Do you think that the Daimo of Tatooine would eventually become Mandalorian canon? Do you think they'll go that route?
What's the question?
Do you think Boba Fett would become Mandalorian canon eventually?
Oh.
Or do you think they're gonna just let him be the Daimo of Tatooine?
Not the way that TV show came out. They're not gonna have him doing a damn thing anymore.
He might be wielding the dark saber in his diaper.
He loves his characters.
He'd be the first, Grandpa Mandalore.
Yeah. Perhaps if that TV, like honestly, perhaps if that show had come out and it was super more popular, you would have that. But I don't think so. I think they've also kind of
as context. By the way, he is in Legends. He is Mandalore in his 70s. By the way.
Yeah.
I think.
Sabine,
I mean,
Sabine.
I guess there's a way if like the 2 stars or whatever. If there's another Civil War and there's no one worthy, you could do that. I guess, but
new Civil War.
I mean, because honestly, the way they've kind of wrote him now, like he might be the best suited to lead an entire planet of Mandalorians. Honestly, he's kind of got that mentality now where he wants to be a leader. So it's not the worst idea, but I don't think they're going to do that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to have his the sand gets all over the place.
And in a way, the stormtroopers are somewhat related to the Mandalorian, especially like just the armor,
Mm-hmm.
It kind of came
the aesthetic
from Django.
Oh yeah, it all goes back. Yeah. So I think that's it. That's what we have so far. Probably in 2 months, this will be outdated. But...
not even a month. Probably is going to be 2-3 weeks before the season's over. They're probably going to be retconning.
Let me tell you how fast this can be outdated. If that armor doesn't keep her damn mouth shut and tells even one more story of some character from the past, this is all wiped away. We have to do another hour-long special. Because all she has to do is, after Mandalore the Great, there came another Mandalore, and I'm gonna be like, son of a gun, because now it's
Mandalore the greatest. Then Mandalore.
All right, well, we hope you guys enjoyed that. Now we're gonna go ahead and go on to Star Wars news. It says I saw
news and new comic releases. So obviously we haven't done the show in like 2 weeks, so we have a lot of character posters from each series. Awesome. So Mandalorian, these are the 3 posters they've had so far.
I have seen that a lot of parts of the internet have turned on this lady a lot over on the right. I've
heard it too. I mean, sometimes she's a little much. Sometimes
she is a little much, and they're like, this is like one of the worst written things, and it's like a really bad attempt to try to like force the stories together of Boba. Let's connect the dots here in some kind of weird forced way. I get it. She is a little much actually, but
Are they gonna bring up the guys in the middle? Those are great guys.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you
They
can't. You're
make
not
up
allowed to
for
talk
it.
trash about. You're
They're
not allowed to
good.
talk trash about those guys in the middle. Like, you're not allowed to. That's the rule. They're amazing.
Then we had 2 for Bad Batch. We had a poster for Scorch and for Mayday. What were you talking about Mayday earlier with his bandage?
He's covered in bandages because he's a GI Joe. Like, he's Mayday.
We're
Mayday
gonna get
has bandages.
Here's the issue. We got a Black Series for this Scorch, but the issue is all the other Delta squad are in plastic, and he's the only one in the cardboard. It doesn't match. Mayday, maybe they'll rectify their mistakes and he'll look good.
Maybe.
Probably not. Now, this is what I want to talk about. I saw this and I was so excited. This is cool. I want this.
How big is it?
You're gonna spend like $700 for that thing?
This is $70. So shut up.
No, it's not.
This is they brought back a series after they've said they finished making the Lego helmets. They're not doing the more Lego Star Wars helmets. They're gonna bring back they call MIDI scale. So they're kind of they're above the miniature scale stuff, but below the thing.
Oh, okay.
This is 16 inches long by 14 inches wide. 4 inches wide. 4 inches wide, 16 long. It is the Executor.
You know what?
This comes out.
I think
May
$70
1st.
is outrageous for that scale, but at the same time, at least it's something you can actually put on a shelf instead of the monster ones.
So this is May 1st. This comes out. I'm buying this. This is cool.
This is not bad, man. Actually,
the Super Star Destroyer is my favorite. One of my favorite designs. This is so cool.
So this is the reason why it's up here, because you.
Yeah, of course. I'm the one who makes these slides, so I can be biased. I can do what I want.
Oh, there it is.
That's actually a decent size, though. It really is. That's not a bad size because you can actually put that on a bookshelf.
And then I love the little tiny Star Destroyers next to it for scale.
Wow, it's not bad, I must say.
Another Lego set that was
spoiler. Hey, you can't be putting no spoilers.
Hey, I can put the spoilers I want for episode 2. That was a week ago. So they had a show also. This actually was funny. This got leaked, and Lego said screw it. They just released it fully, the announcement, because they were worried with the leak. Pretty cool. The reason why I'm including this is because this is actually the first time the Darksaber actually has a unique mold for it. Before, I didn't know this. It's hilarious. They used a lightsaber hilt. Before, they used just a black lightsaber tube for the Darksaber.
Oh, okay.
And now they have an actual blade.
Good.
All right, let's get past that.
And then so Mandomania, they're doing every week. They release a bunch of random merchandise. And for some reason, the Book of Boba Fett, they're doing it's the Tusken Warrior, the lady.
It's a good thing I'm not collecting those anymore because I don't need it. God almighty.
These are the badges, different arts for the badges for Star Wars Celebration Europe. So each of these is a different badge art you could get.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were comic covers.
Would you like me to tell you which two I can guarantee you're going to do the worst selling?
You know
one
what?
Is called Omega, and one is called Ray, and those will be the ones they're going to have plenty of when it's all said and done.
I think what's her name as well, probably left to Reva.
I think she'll be out. Listen, if they say all we have left is Omega, Ray, and Reva, I'm getting the Reva one. I'm not getting those other two.
You know what's kind of funny? Okay, the Vader one's really good, but I actually really like the Chopper one. I think that's probably my favorite.
Do you not see the man, the myth, the legend right there? Second from the right down there on the middle row with this iconic.
Oh, stamp. I mean, Kenobi's there, but the Chopper one looks pretty cool.
Yeah, Chopper's pretty cool.
Chopper looks fine. You got this. You got my man right here. Wait, what the hell?
Your other man's not there. I'm sorry.
Oh, this is outrageous.
He's on the reverse.
You put Omega there? It's fine.
Yeah, that's news.
Cancel.
New comics. A second printing of the Blade issue 2. I don't even want to acknowledge that. Keep moving.
What the hell?
Issue 3. Second printing. They do whatever they want. Issue 3 of High Republic Adventures. Dark Horse.
Are you serious?
I don't bring it up. Keep moving. He will get paid more than we do
Which
to
one?
do art.
Is that
Explain it? What is that stiff little 12-year-old somebody? What is that?
Is that an interior panel?
Interior, yeah.
See, that's
No!
Marvel.
No! Bad Marvel. No! Like if somebody's kid did that, I'd be like, oh wow, your kid's gonna be really good when he grows up and learns how to draw a little bit better. It's a freaking professional artist right there. Look to the right. Look to the right. Look at that. Life, flow, movement, and then hi, I carry big spear. Like, what is this? Okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Issue 5 of Yoda.
Oh god.
Already?
Oh,
yeah, it's
God.
gone but pretty quick.
Wow.
Left him and the younglings ready to mech up shop. On the right is the Peach Mimiko. You can skip that. Go on the next one.
Terrible.
That is so bad.
Remember, we covered those. Remember, don't forget, we covered those already.
I know, but I was hoping they would cancel it, but they can't cancel it, I guess.
They paid her already.
She doesn't stop, man. She just...
Now, these are
better.
So, can you guess which of the two do you think is the 1 in 25 variant?
The tree.
It's probably going to be the one on the left, but it should be the one on the right.
You think it'd be the tree one. It's the one on the left.
The tree one's very cool.
I think that Wookiee has kidnapped a Trandoshan baby. I think.
Oh. Get his revenge.
So you go make a turtle soup. He's gonna... So the Epic Collection Volume 5, the Old Republic, is out. Good timing. We talked about a bunch of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that is there. And then there is the Omnibus for Rebellion Volume 1. So it covers a bunch of different stories from Dark Horse's time, including all the 2013 Star Wars run, Vader's Quest, some Empire issues, etc.
Is that a Fleming cover on the right?
On the left is the A cover, and on the right is the B cover.
That's not Fleming?
I don't remember offhand.
No. He did some great covers for that.
Probably.
First Star Wars.
And yeah, that'd be it.
I like this. This is important. I approve of this here message.
I was looking up. I was like, what meme can I put at the end? I'm like, oh yeah, weapons are part of my religion. I searched that. And the first result was that scene. Second result was another from that angle. And the third result was I'm a Texan. Weapons are part of my religion. And then I found a whole rabbit hole of those. A whole rabbit hole of those after that.
It's true. It's very true. Kachung, I heard you sigh. Is it because you want to buy this, or just like I heard an audible like? Well, what was that?
It looks so good.
There was an audible like groan sound when that happened. I usually don't hear that whenever the toys are being presented.
To be honest, I saw an omnibus of aliens, and that interests me more.
Oh, I know that. I saw that too, and I laughed.
It's volume in general direction.
Yeah, that aliens one is volume 4, by the way, as a heads up.
I know. Yeah, that's just insane.
You know, when you have good friends, when they see something they know another friend's going to like, and the first reaction is to laugh, and then usually send them a link because they know they're not going to be able to afford it or something. Like, nah, send this.
By the way, that was the Fleming cover. That was Fleming.
Oh, sweet.
All right, I think that's it. We finished 1 hour 8 minutes. That's faster than I thought we were going to get through it.
Yeah, 58 minutes of that was the Mandalorian.
If you enjoyed it, you can always sub up so you don't ever miss a thing. We do this every Wednesday. MrGarrell Gaming. I play mostly Star Wars games, some other stuff. I'm also on Twitch. These two gentlemen, you can find them. When you see their names, that's right there on Instagram. You can follow them there. Good follows. And I guess we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Awkward ending.